Well, hello all and welcome to another episode of the Risking It All podcast. Flying solo today, been ditched by my co-hosts, so you're joined by the true A-team. Delighted to be joined today by Jamie Steele from Squinty Pixels, a creative agency based in sunny Glasgow. They specialise in professional drone footage and videography. Today we are talking about Jamie's origin story, so we'll hear all about how Jamie grew up in the streets of Paisley in Glasgow in the 80s and 90s. Tough upbringing, dad in jail, but managed to, be resilient enough to get himself through that. Bit of a toe rag in school, we've learned, but ended up doing pretty well. Went to uni and got a degree in animation. Ended up working in a couple of creative businesses across the UK as a marketing executive. Was made redundant as a result of COVID, and decided to risk it all and go for it. Started Squinty Pixels and he's never looked back since. So strap in and get ready for a couple of hours of great conversation with Jamie. Right, so Jamie, welcome to the Risking It All podcast. Thanks for coming along today, mate. Really appreciate it. I'm missing a couple of co-hosts, so you've got the absolute A-team today, mate. Just me and you, just having a blether. So as we like to do with all our guests, Jamie, I'm going to ask you to take it all back to where it began for young Jamie. Yep. So tell me a bit about, as we say in Scotland, where are you fae?
Where am I fae?
What was your upbringing like, family situation?
Okay, so when was I born? Born Paisley, good old RAH in Paisley.
Right, okay.
So I'm coming up 39 now, so good old 1986. So I was born just after, I think, the Chernobyl disaster.
Right, okay.
So there we go. Maybe that's had some sort of reflection on me, but I brought up in Paisley. So my mum had 3 kids before. My old man, he had 2 kids as well. And then I was basically number 6. Bringing the two kind of families together type of thing.
Okay.
My old man was a taxi driver and my mum worked in like a kind of cutting factory. Kind of born Paisley, brought up in Shortwoods, then I moved to a place called Foxbar, sunny Foxbar in Paisley.
Right, what was that like? Is
brilliant.
It rough or is it alright?
It's rough. It was rough. Where I stayed in particular was rough. It was a very kind of rough place. There was a lot of drugs and stuff going about Paisley at that point. And then for there, I moved on to Glasgow for a wee while.
Right, okay.
There was a lot of situations going on with my old man and stuff like that. And then he basically went to the jail, so never seen him again. And then for there, I moved to Johnson. Kind of went to high school and stuff like that. But as a wee guy, as I says, it was fairly rough when we were growing up. I was a younger brother, so I was probably seeing a lot of stuff that maybe we guys aren't kind of used to seeing. So as I say, there was a lot of drugs going on. It wouldn't be commonplace for me to begin, coming back from school, going up the stairs and there's a guy lying out his bin in jelly, so to speak. It was rife, to be honest. And you kind of see that part of the world. It's not something that I see anymore, but kind of grew up in that sort of world, and you sort of... It's a dangerous place for those guys that are in it. You know what I mean? It's not a very nice place to be. I think sometimes it's glamorised.
Aye.
So drugs was very much a common place when we were growing up. There's a lot of guys that I grew up with, that my brothers in particular grew up with, that aren't about anymore. But
aye. Did you get on well with your brothers and sisters?
I did, and I still do, to be honest.
Right,
particularly on my mum's side, my brother and my sister. From my dad's side, I've moved down south.
Right, okay.
I still talk to my brother down there, but very, very tight. My brothers and my sister up here. So
the young one are typically my mum's the youngest. Her siblings as well. And I actually spoke about this in the last podcast. She often says that by the time she got to school, the teachers were like, "Oh no, another one of you." It's like it's all brothers she had that were all toe rags, so she get tarnished with the same brush that they had in the many years before she arrived at the school. So pretty close with your brothers and sisters. What if you don't mind me asking, what age were you when your dad went to jail?
So I'll just give you a kind of background in that story then. So as I says, when we were growing up, my old man was always a bit of a kind of working guy, kind of nice guy, big guy. And then for there, we moved into Foxbar, and he was a bit of a naive guy. I think he was a kind of an easy target, to be honest, for people that weren't very nice, so to speak.
Unscrupulous characters.
So they would I say took advantage of him? Maybe a little bit. But you're talking, drug dealers, all that sort of stuff. So you get into all that sort of stuff, and then was, spending his time with drug dealers, going to Easter House, driving guys about.
Right.
But the guy that actually stayed downstairs went to go to Easter House and basically get shot. My dad was supposed to be driving him that day, so he got killed. So all that kicked off, and then I think my wee nana at the time was basically, right, you guys need to get out of there. So we moved to Glasgow, and then I just remember as a wee guy, young boys coming to the door all the time, and then they were always handing them money, and like, that's for your dad. And then I was like, right, okay. Never really, obviously, I was too young to really know what was going on.
Aye.
And then there was like a nice big red car, and then all of a sudden, I remember being a wee guy, I went to open the door, and the door just disappeared. And it was these guys all clad in black and all busting through the door.
Oh shit!
Guns and the full shebang. That had actually happened a couple of times in Foxbar with the guy underneath. And then that was that. Away he went, and basically never seen him again. I think I seen him once after that, but he brought me a Fred Perry jacket.
Right, okay. This is a decent jacket.
It was a belter, to be fair. Certainly made up for it. But I went away to there, kind of get yourself hooked on his own drugs, so to speak, and that was that. He died, maybe died about 10 years ago or something.
Right, okay.
He lived a few years after that, once he came out, but I think by that point he was just, his body was done. But
done.
It's a sad way to go, because obviously my relationship with my dad was never there.
Aye.
But then that's the thing, like my wee mum, so she used to work, when we moved to Johnson, she used to work like, 14-hour shifts in a cardboard box factory. So me and my sister could go to uni, you know what I mean? So she knocked her pan in. She still does. She still works to this day, you know what I mean? She's closing 70, and she does a wee part-time job, so she's an absolute trooper. But that's the thing, like she grew up in that, and then I remember when all that kicked off in Gallagher, she left immediately, and basically went into a homeless unit, and I was still staying in Gallagher at the time, and then I remember just, I don't know if my mum had given money or whatever, but I remember me and my sister went in the house, and basically just wasn't getting fed. My dad wasn't feeding us for 2 days, so I phoned my mum. She came and got me. I kind of met her halfway. She was staying in a wee kind of homeless unit in Paisley. Got me a chippy, and then that was that. Then from there we kind of moved in with my older brother in Johnson, who took us in for a while.
Right, okay, mate.
Until my mum get a kind of new house in a place called Cosford in Johnson, which was an absolute midden, but it was a place to stay at the time, you know what I mean?
And I wish this was the first time I'd heard a story like this, but in Glasgow in the 80s and 90s, it's I won't go as far as saying it's commonplace, but you hear it a lot, do you know, like, so we'll get on to some of the success that you've achieved, mate, in business, but kudos to you, because that's not a fucking easy start for anybody.
See, be honest, mate, like, a lot of people kind of say that, you've had that. To me, it's no different for what thousands of other wee guys have had to put up with, you know what I mean? Like, when I was growing up, I went to a wee school called Harriet, and there was a lot of poor Waynes in there was a lot of troubled Waynes in there as well. Actually, looking back, I felt sorry for the teachers, but I was just carnage. It was just pure chaos.
I was just about to ask you how you were in school, if you were a toe rag or if you behaved yourself.
Total toe rag. Quite nasty, I would probably say as well. Quite, I don't know, just not really, I suppose you weren't brought up.
You're a product of your environment. Really,
exactly that. I was hanging about with my older brothers that were up to things and kicking about young teams and all that sort of stuff. So you sort of shadow some of that when you're a wee guy. You think that's what you're supposed to do. And I would just go up and just being a wee arsehole, basically. Causing trouble, getting into old flats and set them in fire and just all sorts of stuff. But I think I would probably say that kind of kept up until I was maybe about 12. But I was always a bit smarter, you know what I mean? Like, there was always guys kicking about the scheme, and then maybe when I hit 11, 12, I was like, I can't be arsed doing this, like, just being a numpty. But I was always a bit of a geek as well, so I ended up just sort of staying in the house playing my PlayStation at the time. So there was like Final Fantasy 7 was it, Age of Empires was it, and I was like, I'm just going to spend my time doing this. This is far better, and just sort of reverted into that. When I moved to Johnson as well, I started thinking. The first person that I sat down next to is my best mate. When I moved from Paisley Grammar, still kind of causing a lot of trouble and stuff like that. And then the decision was made that I'll go to Johnson. So I moved to high school. And then that was basically a big change for me. Change that I probably needed as well. So rather than being a wee numpty, I just sort of focused on being quite competitive with my best mate when in school.
Right, good.
And kind of started just getting on the right track, so to speak. Like, didn't want to hang about schemes, didn't want to, cause problems or anything like that. Just get on with it.
Aye.
And then I just, for there, started thinking about with just normal ways that done normal things.
I think as you get a wee bit older as well and you realise that getting into trouble, it's actually not just you. It's like when you're bringing it to your mum's door, she starts to feel it, and then you're like, oh God, I'm being a bit of an arse here. Like, all right, mate. In high school, how was high school for you? Was that a bit better than primary?
Aye, high school was decent for me. I always say though, like when I look back, I'm like, I probably should have achieved more than what I did at the time. But then I would probably say that's just a product of education. And I think, see, if you're a creative person, I don't think school's made for you, to be honest. Even now, I still don't think it's right. Like, I remember when I was picking my subjects, there was like one kind of creative subject, and that was art. There was nothing really else. It was graphic comm, which was sort of designing, like doing like product design. But in terms of if you're an actual creative person, there was nothing there. I felt like I was moulded into, doing maths and doing all these sort of academic-based studies, which I'm not an academic person. I don't do that. I really struggle reading things for books. That's why I watch videos. I watch videos for everything. If I'm going to teach myself to do something, I watch a video. So I think in school, don't get me wrong, I still got highers and I still went to uni, but I was almost a wee bit disappointed that I never done more, you know what I mean? Kind of looking back. But then maybe when I hit about kind of fifth year, me and a pal of mine, we worked in Primark at the weekends, and then we got a wee job in Primark in Braehead, and that was one of the best jobs I ever had. So the before you sitting around a wee table folding knickers, you know what I mean? So see in Primark, you got in Primark and then people just pull everything away. My job at the time was just to go back and fold it all back up. But you're sitting around a table full of people, your pals, just chatting away, having a laugh. It was absolutely brilliant.
And I've said this in God knows how many episodes now, but I think the first few jobs that you had when you were still living at home, I felt more loaded than I ever have since then.
100%.
Because you've no bills, you've no outgoings. There was no real fancy trinkets back then in the same way there is now with iPhones, iPads. It cost a fortune, so it was all beer money. And I remember thinking, I think I was on fucking 14 grand or something. I was like, I am caked in cash here, caked in cash. Then moved out to my mum's house and was like, oh no, turns out I'm actually poor as fuck.
That's true. Now I remember when I had first started getting the jobs and I first started making some money, to be honest. I wouldn't say by that point I really, really struggled. It's not I was really, really poor, but see when you start getting your own money and you can start buying yourself stuff and you're not relying on your mum buying you stuff and all that sort of stuff, it's quite a liberating experience as well, you know what I mean? And then you're like, wait a minute here, I can work hard, I can make money. Before I knew it, I was going to school. Then the weekends I was working 2 days. And then after a Saturday shift and a Sunday shift, I would do my wee cleaning shift in Braehead. Then I would head over to IKEA and I'd push trolleys to 10 at night. And then during the week, I'd go to school. And then 3 days after that, I was going to Primark and folding my knickers on the wee table with my pals, you know what I mean? So when you actually look back, I basically instantly filled my time with working, which definitely had an impact academically. As I said, I still got hires and stuff like that, but I should have done better. And I think that's maybe where, if you look at someone that comes from a kind of better off family and stuff like that, they don't really need that wee job. They don't need that job to that extent. Whereas I'm like, wait a minute here, like I can work and make all this money, and it was brilliant. And then you leave school, you hit 18, you start drinking, or you're good at drinking, so to speak. and then the money just instantly disappears, doesn't it? It's gone.
It's gone.
It goes into a bar's till, so.
Aye, but, you know, even to this day, you know, it's cheesy and cliche, but I'm all about making memories. I prefer to spend my money on holidays than I do stuff or 100%. Things, you know, like 100%. Nice car's great, and you know, having a decent pad's again great, but for me, I'll always rather go one extra holiday a year, go and 100%. See a new place, or go back to a place that I love. But you touched upon a point there that I think's quite kind of pertinent around school, and school not really being set up for the creative mind. I think certainly when we were at school, we're the same age pretty much. I was 38 a couple of days ago. But back then, it certainly wasn't, you know, tailored towards, or there wasn't much nurturing, I don't think, for the old creative mind. You were just put in a box, and it was, you need to remember stuff, you need to remember outcomes, and that's how you get good grades. I think, to be fair, the schools now have came a long way. I'm with you in the sense that I still don't think that they're doing enough to tailor it to people that just see and think a bit differently. But back then there certainly wasn't, you know, let's dedicate 2, 3, 4 classes a week to really bringing your creativity out, and, you know, driving entrepreneurship and all that fun stuff that you know we're now both involved in. So you left high school, ended up, I guess, getting the grades to go to uni, or did you go back to uni as an adult?
No, actually, so that was a weird one. So I'd always had this dream of designing buildings and stuff like that. So I'm like, right, what do I want to do? Is architecture maybe something I want to look at? Do I want to look at civil engineering? And then I got in my head that, like, see, when I was a wee guy, I had this fascination with, like, building stuff. I was always building stuff. So it's early, like when I was 6 or 7, I used to take the old VHS cassettes and build these massive towers and, like, bridge them and all that. Right, like, quite a talent for it. So my mum used to come in like, and I've built these towers up to the ceiling with videos. Actually, every single video in the house would be used, and I'd be building these towers and all that. So I always had that in the back of my mind, you know what I mean? Is that what I'm good at? Is that what I enjoy? So I was like, I got it in my mind, I'm like structural engineer. So in school I had picked physics. And in school, like, see when you've got a good teacher, it just makes the world a difference. So when I was doing, like, my standard grades and my higher, I had a cracking physics teacher as well. So that was brilliant. So that's the thing as well, you know what I mean? I think when I look back at school, a lot of the subjects that I maybe not excelled in is probably because of the teacher.
Aye.
I remember having a teacher that was just writing on the board constantly, and I wasn't the fastest writer, so I felt that I was basically just writing stuff off a board that someone was writing. That to me isn't a way of teaching.
Aye.
You know what I mean? See when a teacher was interactive, when they're standing in front of the class, they're getting you involved, you actually start building a passion for what they're teaching. But if the teacher doesn't have a passion in what they're teaching, then it's not going to pass down to you, and you're not going to be successful in it. Whereas, you know what I mean, when this guy was talking about physics, it was all got Mr. Mullaney. When he's talking about physics, I was fascinated by it. Things like motion and space and all that. So I thought, you know, I'm enjoying physics. Standard grades and stuff like that, I get straight ones. I was loving it. And then, kind of looking back, I think when I started working at, like, school basically took a step back. I wasn't interested. I wasn't interested. I was getting a bursary at the time, and I was no turning up, and so that bursary and stuff like that was taken away. But I was always in time for work. You know what I mean? And I think I just shifted my focus from school to work. So my grades definitely kind of related to that. But in terms of schools now, I think I would be a lot more successful in schools now, because apparently they do things like higher photography, and art's completely set up differently as well. But I don't know if they've came on. But then that's the thing, like, being a creative, is it up to us to get involved with the schools? Aye. Is it up to the schools themselves to change? Because how many jobs are academic related? I don't know what the percentage is, but school for me was purely academic the blueprint of it was purely academic. So I'm like, this doesn't fit most people. Even trades guys, like, you know, they had woodwork and that was it.
Aye.
And they were like, if you're not academic, you're stupid.
Aye.
You know what I mean? Go and get a trade. Whereas most of the well-off guys now are all tradies.
I struggle now, even to this day, I struggle with any form of academic learning. So like an example might be, I might decide I'm going to do a wee course to learn something, and if it's practical and engaging, I like the actual course. But when it comes time to take this home, sit down at night, this is how you review, this is how you practice in a test environment, I'm a bit like, God, like it actually gives me goosebumps thinking about it. You know, it's like PTSD. Like I wanted to be good in school, but I just didn't have it in the locker. I couldn't concentrate. And then just ended up becoming a bit of a toe rag, I think, for the same reasons, because I was just like, I'm not really going to make it into this anyway, so I'm going to just try and enjoy it.
I think sadly there's a lot of people like that though that do have talent. Like I think everybody's got a talent for something.
Aye.
Whereas I was kind of, when I was in school, obviously just even going right back to school, I was just chaos. You know what I mean? I was getting extra support workers, and I don't know if it's social workers or who it was, but you know what I mean? I was getting taken out of class, and there was this woman with a calm voice trying to talk to me, see how I was getting on and all that.
Aye.
I just had no interest.
Aye.
If I liked the teacher, it was completely different. You know what I mean? I would sit there, I would do all my work, I would be engaged, and then I think that's quite relevant for school as well. It was purely dependent on the teacher for me and how they taught. If they stood up in front of the class and they were interactive, you got engaged in it. That for me was perfect. But see, if I had to sit and read books and learn via books, even to this day, I just can't do it, man.
And to be fair, I better jump in and my wife's a teacher, right? So I better jump in for a minute and defend in the interest of having somewhere to sleep tonight, right?
I know, my sister's a teacher as well. I know
it's a tough gig, right?
100%.
Especially now, like where, like every public service, you know, the support's getting stripped away. So more often than not, it's one teacher up to 30 kids in a class, and if 10 of those kids even like to learn in a particular way, the other 10 like to learn in a particular way, the other 10 like to, like, how do you know, you've only got so many hours in the day, so it is a right tough gig. It's not about sitting bashing the teachers and going, you need to be doing better and the lessons need to be more engaging.
It's not the teachers.
It's solid, but anyway, we'll leave that to the real professionals in society to sort with, right?
I think they've also got the... So like I've got two kids. They're autistic. My wee girl's very clever, but my wee boy's quite severely autistic.
Right.
So I see the school dealing with that. And I think that's a thing you need to factor in as well for schools. Is I don't know what's going on with autism at the moment, but the rates seem to be rising, and I don't think it's just the diagnosis getting better. I think the actual number of cases are increasing. So that puts pressure on the schools. Like we were doing a video in London, and I had a really good chat with the head teacher, and he was saying he gets like £20,000 of funding for every student that needs additional support. That costs him like £28,000. So every time a child with additional needs comes in, it's basically depleting their budget every time, because they need one-on-one support, these children. So I don't know what the answer to that is, to be perfectly honest.
Is there an option, and excuse my ignorance here, mate, I just honestly don't know, right? But if your kids have a diagnosis either before school or once they've joined school, is there an option for kids to go to a different school that specialises in dealing with autistic kids, or is it just they all just need to survive in the...
So there is. So we're trying to get our... me and my ex-missus are trying to get our wee boy into a school called Hampden, and apparently they've only got like, I think it's like 10 to 12 kids or something.
Right.
So there are spaces, but I'm in a new relationship now, and Sam's a health visitor. So a big part of her job is, you know, trying to get these kids into these schools, but there's just no enough spaces at all. So you've got kids that are, you know, non-verbal, kids with quite severe learning difficulties, basically getting put into primary one and primary one of conventional schools, which isn't good for them.
No,
it's not good for them.
It's not good for the teacher, the class.
It's not good for the teacher.
It's not good for anybody.
So there are schools available, but I just don't think they've got anywhere near the capacity that we need at the moment.
Right, aye. All right, mate. Again, I think we'll leave that to the true professionals.
Aye.
So you left school, I guess, is the long and short of it. Was it straight to uni, or did you do some work in between? Like, what was proper job number one, as I like to call it?
So once leaving school, I was like, right, I'm gonna be a civil engineer. I want to design bridges. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of. I had this dream in my head that I was going to travel the world and everything else, but then I also had the back of my mind, you know what I mean, I'd love to give being a pilot a go, being a fighter pilot a go. I would really love that idea, right? So I was like, right, okay. So I went to college, and I started doing an HND, and then maybe about 3 or 4 weeks in, you know what I mean, I was making concrete, I was out doing surveys and stuff like that. And I was like, this is not for me. This just isn't for me. I've made a huge mistake here. Mm-hmm. So at that point I started working in a bar, which was perfect. I'd always kind of fancied working in a bar. So I was working in a hotel in Glasgow, Thistle Hotel at the time. So I started kind of looking about, and I was like, right, I'll apply for Paisley, and I'll see what it's about. But at that point I had went to see the Navy. So I'm like, right, this is who I am, this is what I've got. So like, right, you've got the qualifications to get straight in. Basically, I would probably get a bit of life experience behind you, maybe go to uni. So I was like, right, what will I study? He's like, it's up to you. So I was like, well, I'm going to study what I like. I like computer games, so I'm going to go and study that. Again, massive mistake. It was all coding, all of it. So I've got this dream that I'm going to be making computer games, and I get in, and it's dark rooms with code, and I'm like, no chance. But a part of that course was animation, and I loved the animation side. I loved the visual side. So I had a wee chat with the lecturer, and he basically moved me onto that course instead. Right. I picked up a couple of modules that I had missed along the way, but that was me. I was basically on the track. But during that time, again, kind of came back to school. Like I was studying, but my mind was focused somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I was purely focused on joining the Navy and being a pilot at the time, because I had like romantic notions of being a Top Gun and all that. I did, and I went for it, to be fair. I was fit. I had learned everything that I need to learn, but again, kind of in my arrogance, I was like, I want to be a pilot. And then kind of closer to the time when I was coming to the end of my kind of degree and stuff like that, the Royal Navy were kind of really ramping down on the fleet ADAM, so there was like no fighter jets being ordered, blah 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 blah. So if you're going to be a pilot, you're only going to be a helicopter pilot, which had crushed my dreams. Honestly, it crushed them. So I was like, what? Again, and then at that point it was like, right, there's probably not going to be any pilots. Would you want to be an observer? So by that point, to be honest, I was just like, that's not what I wanted to do. It's just not what I wanted to do. And then I was like, well, I'll give it a bash. You know what I mean? It's still joining the Navy. It's still, you know, travelling the world and all that. But then I think when David Cameron came in, recruitment for officers basically got closed across the board. So I think I had a week left until something called my AIB, which is like one of your kind of final stage interviews. So that was basically stopped dead. And I think by the time that I was to rejoin, it was 2 years later, so I was too old to be a pilot, basically. So kind of without my control. But then I was like, right, I've got this degree, thankfully, and something that I enjoy. And my time, again, going back to my time at uni, I fucking loved uni. I loved it. People say don't go to uni and everything else. I can only say from my experience, I loved it, everything about it.
What was your degree in the end?
3D animation.
Right, okay.
And I loved it.
That'll be why you loved it, though, surely, mate. It's like it's just playing into, you know, something that you love.
Exactly. So I was modelling, like, so back then, though. So when I graduated in 2010, so I probably started studying in 2005. The software wasn't ready. And the uni had this old software called, I think it was Adobe. No, it wasn't Adobe. Sorry, it was Lightroom and Layout. So you modelled in one and animated in a different software, and you would sort of like, you would create like dynamic links or whatever from your modelling software into your animating software. But you would go to animate your character, and then suddenly his arm would disappear like a mile into the sky, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? Like, the software wasn't quite there.
Aye.
I felt. But the actual course itself was amazing. And in terms of personal development and stuff like that, it was absolutely fantastic. For me, I absolutely loved it. But I went back to my old uni in the old course that year there when they were doing a kind of final presentation night. And some of the work the wee guys are doing, the wee lasses are doing, is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Like they're certainly a lot more evolved than what we were back then. I don't know if that's the software or the uni's just refined the course a lot more. But it was brilliant, man. It was absolutely brilliant.
But I guess that just goes to show you've went for 10, 15 minutes ago saying, academia, no for me, but, I felt square peg and round hole. It is still a form of academia, it's just
it is.
The subject matter was tailored towards something that you loved. And you go for thinking, this is bullshit, I hate it, to this is absolutely brilliant, I'm really enjoying it.
I think a lot of it as well was based on the fact that it was lab based, so we obviously went to lectures and stuff like that. We got our lectures, and I really enjoyed the lectures actually, because they were specific. I really enjoyed the lectures, but after that we would then go to the labs and we would basically work on what we've just watched. So there's a lot of trying and testing, which for me, I would always say there's like 3 ways to learn. Learning for a book, which just I can't do it. Just, my mind blanks. I'm not interested. See all these guys that are reading all these, business books and all that. I'm like, I can't do it, man. I just blank out. I just can't do it. But me as a geek, I read like fantasy books and all that, constantly. But see, reading a book,
to learn
a business book, I just shut down. Watching videos, which was a massive part of my degree. You know what I mean? So I'm like, right, I fancy doing this. YouTube, right? Okay, bang. And then the other bit is just trying something. For me, that's the best way to learn how to do something. Try it, make an arse of it, and then you'll probably be able to do it the second time, or third time. So it was a combination of sort of lectures, YouTubing things myself, and actually, having a kind of someone in the lab saying, right, where are you? Right, you've messed this up, let's fix this. Basically trying it and then fixing it. But that for me was a very kind of different way of learning as well. I don't know if it was the fact that you're treated as an adult rather than a child as well. But I felt it quite liberating, the fact that I'm actually learning here. Sometimes in school you can feel quite stupid because they're not teaching something the way that you want to be taught.
I think there is a difference in the sense that uni/college, you defined it as being treated as an adult, but I didn't go to either, right? But for what I can gather, it sounds like it's very much like, look, this is the curriculum. If you don't do it, or if you fuck up, that's on you, right? It's like, here's where you need to be, here's the times you need to be there, here's the commitment required. But if you're not willing to be there on time and commit yourself and you fuck up, then that's just on you, do you know? And that's kind of how things are in the working environment in the UK. It's like, where do I need to be? What's my schedule? What do I need to do? Right, let me lay all that out for you. Go and do it. And if you don't do it, well, it's your fuck up. Life's going to get pretty challenging. Whereas in school, it's a bit like, if you don't do that, I'm going to phone your mum. And the minute that stopped, that's why I think I knew that college and uni just wasn't for me, because I infamously in school took a 7th year because, like you, I tried to join the military. I failed. So I was like, I don't know what else to do with my life. I'll go back to school. Right. So I ended up doing an extra year, but it meant I was still in high school when I became an adult. I was 18 and in high school. I've never
even heard of that. I didn't know it was a thing.
Most people don't know it's a thing, mate. And essentially how it came about was one of my best mates, Pete, came out of the social room in school one day. We were in 6th year and I was like, I've just got the head teacher to agree to keep me on for another year. And I was like, how have you done that? And he was like, I just asked, just said, look, I've not quite hit the grades that I wanted to. Can I stay on another year, get what I need, and then go to uni? So of course the minute I heard he done it, I was like, fucking right up to the head teachers. And I was like, look, if you're doing it for him, you're doing it for me. But because I was then 18 in my last year, of course, if I didn't turn up to a class or if I wasn't where I was meant to be, the teachers were like, we're not fucking phoning your mum. Like, you're going out to the pub and then missing classes classes. Like,
sitting in class hungover.
Aye. I didn't last very long, let's just say, in my 7th year. I think I lasted maybe 6 months. And then the head teacher sat me down and went, right, Brian, what are we doing here? We're wasting everybody's time, we know. You're not even turning up. Like, and that was that, really. But that's the transitional period, I think, that everybody goes through. It's like you get to a point and everything's quite controlled. Phone your mum if you're not here. Parents' nights, we're telling her, we're giving them the reports. And then suddenly it's like, oh, actually, we don't get it anywhere. It's like you'll just fuck up your life, and that's on you. And then you have that wee moment where you go, oh, I better screw the nut here, and actually just start trying to live like a normal adult and human.
Absolutely.
Make something of myself. But
I think a big changing point as well is that, like, when I started, especially when I was working in like IKEA, and then I started with a bar job, you suddenly go from school and you are in the environment of kids to working with adults. So you've got adults that are not your parents, they're not your teachers, they don't give a shit about you.
Aye.
And you're suddenly mixed in with these people, so you're like, oh, right, okay. And I think that's what makes you grow up pretty quickly, because you don't want to come across as a stupid wee kid.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
And I think, another thing that you were saying earlier on that I really empathise with, mate, is that see when you're brought up and you don't have a lot, and then you start working, you start earning money, and you can start buying things, you can start going on holiday. That's the drug, I think. That's like, oh my God, like if I just did more hours, I could get more money and then do it even more again. That's where it all begins, I think, is that feeling of I've not really had much in my life, but actually, I'm starting to knuckle down here and get a bit of cash that I can actually do different 100%. Exciting things that I've never 100%. Done in my life before.
I remember, so I would probably say the first time I properly bought something was my gaming PC. So I got this gaming PC built when I was probably about 18, 19. So, as I says, I was always a gamer. Kind of playing the PlayStation, growing up with and the PlayStation 2 came out, absolutely mind blown. I'd been spending time playing GoldenEye on the N64, like some of these classic games. I've spent hundreds, thousands of hours playing these games. You know what I mean? And I was like, I always wanted a gaming PC because I like all the big grand strategy games and like building wee armies and fighting and building bases and all that sort of stuff. But I remember the first time I built that gaming PC, that was the achievement. That was, I've earned this money and I've built this myself with the money that I've made. You know what I mean? So that is, it's quite an addictive thing. It's quite a serious thing, but also gives you that wee element of pride as well. You're like, I've actually earned that. No one's bought me it. You know what I mean? No one's given it to me. I've actually worked for that, and it's basically a product of my work.
Aye.
And then for there, you're buying clothes. And then for there, it's just a case of you sort of hit that mindset, and then I suppose a controversial subject is that mindset away now. Are Wayne's too spoiled now?
Aye.
I think they are, personally.
But I don't mind verbalising this at all. I've always said that my upbringing is part of what drives me forward. Subconsciously now, right? I don't think about it. I don't think, oh, I had this or I didn't have this, so I better try and move my life on and get better than that. It just subconsciously pushes me on to do more. And I've probably two key fears as a parent. One is just having a kid that's ungrateful, and I'm blessed to say that I don't think that we're in that situation, thankfully. But another is them then not having that spark or fire, because actually it's just holidays here, there, and everywhere, and it's not that life's easy, but it's certainly easier than it was in the 80s and the 90s. I think for kids in Glasgow.
Aye, I think it's different. I think kids nowadays really struggle socially. I think that there's definitely entitlement now. I don't think that's, I don't think that's a product of us being too hard or anything like that. And I would say we probably had it quite easy as well, you know what I mean? Compared to
our parents.
Aye, where literally you had families of 5 being brought up in a freezing cold tenement flat in Glasgow.
The last guy that sat in that chair, his dad was a miner, bringing up his family and at the outskirts of Edinburgh. I mean, that you think you've had a tough life until you hear about somebody getting up at 3 a.m. and getting into a fucking pitch dark pit. Do you know what I mean? Literally a pitch dark pit in the middle of winter.
That must be lovely.
Anyway, so back to your story, mate. So good to hear that you had a great positive experience at university. What was next after uni for Jamie?
So after uni, so once obviously the whole Navy thing didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
I was like, right, okay, well, I've got this degree. So the recruiter that I was involved with for the Navy was brilliant. I got on really well with him. Right. Everything was positive. So when I was involved with the Navy, I done like something called a POC course, Potential Officer Candidate course. So I got a, we done that, see that thing in the underwater module where you go down, you spin upside down. I loved all that. To me, that was just brilliant. But I had always been quite sporty as well. So I'd always been a runner. So when I was living in Johnson, when I was, 18, 19, 20, I was running 50 kilometres away up the back of the Braes towards Ayrshire, all that kind of direction. So I was as fit as I would ever get, you know what I mean? I went a run 2 days ago and it was like running with a bag of bricks in my back, honestly. I just, my every bone in my body was screaming in agony.
Change days, mate.
It's sad days, but after that, once that was kind of done and dusted, I was like, right, I need to get myself a position here. Like I need to start building something. So when I was in uni, actually, I was working kind of bar jobs, but actually I got a wee summer job as a postman. And
God, you've done everything.
I know. Tell me about it. I had done my wee summer job as a postie, and I had done a good job at that. And the manager was actually off at the time. And then he came back. He's like, listen, he's like, would you be interested in doing maybe just a couple of wee days a week, cover the Saturday shift, and then maybe like a day a week, a day or two during the week. So for me, that was absolutely perfect. You know what I mean? People are working in bars at the time getting £3.80, £4 an hour, and getting paid £10 an hour. You know what I mean? Plus I'm walking about, and I could do at the time, before they brought in these big trolleys and everything else, I could do my run in about 2.5 hours.
You're back up the road for
exactly.
early morning, you've got your day.
It was brilliant. And then when term time was off, I done it full time because I would cover all the other guys' holidays, annual leave and stuff.
Right.
And I knew every run in the office, so I was basically what you call a full floater. I could do I could turn up and whatever run I had to do that day is the one that I done. So I ended up doing that for about a year. It was essentially like a full-time postie. I got my own kind of run. I loved that job, absolutely loved it. I loved the people. I loved the guys that were there, like some really nice, humble guys that I worked with. And then for there, I got a graduate position. So, but at the time, I was going for everything. I was going for, graduate sales positions in Manchester. I was going for recruitment position. I would go for anything that my degree would basically get me in the doorway. And I think at the time, getting a graduate position was near impossible because there was, 500 graduates going for everything. I don't know if that's still the case now, but at the time I was like, I just can't get anything here. And then this position came up in a company called Eclipse Blinds, and it was like a kind of marketing assistant type thing. So my first job with them was basically creating like wee YouTube videos, wee how-to, showing the blind components and stuff like that. Then after that, I was photographing the components for the website, exporting the pictures, uploading them to the website. But with that, I got to do some of my own ideas as well. So I done this big Christmas animation. It was like a big animated advent calendar, and like wee windows popped out, and it would be like videos for each element of their business and stuff. So that was pretty cool. But I think that lasted 12 months.
One of the digital I'm smiling here because one of the digital marketers that works in our office, Harry, he done his digital apprenticeship at a blinds company, which I always found to be mega random. And now you're saying that your starting point into kind of digital marketing, if you like, was in a blinds company as well.
Window blind manufacturer, but it was quite a cool setup as well. It was like a really kind of professional setup. And the lassie that trained me, she was absolutely brilliant.
Where were they based?
In Shannon.
Right, okay.
But I was quite lucky in the fact that the person that kind of trained me and, started kind of moulding me was very, very good. And I think that's very important as well. Like when you do your 4-year degree, you come out Billy Big Boss, you think you know everything, and then you go into the graduate job and you realise that you don't know anything, nothing at all. And it's not until you get into the position that you really start learning, you really start understanding it. Because in uni, when they're telling you, you know, from a marketing perspective or a video perspective or whatever, it's just wee uni assignments. Whereas when you actually start working, it's got a lot more emphasis behind it. It's a lot more meaningful.
There's investment involved.
Exactly.
Folk want to see money back for money in.
And it suddenly becomes very
high.
real. So that was brilliant. And then after that, I got a job with a company called Gap Group. And that's where I really started learning things. So basically, they were like a family business that had grown and grown and grown. Very strong business, very good business. And they never really had a marketing department. So I was brought in as like a kind of marketing assistant. And then Alison was brought in as the marketing manager.
Right.
But during that time, you know what I mean, they went from, I think, 3 divisions up to 8.
Right, okay,
I had, you know, there was a full website project involved in that time. The catalogue, we managed the catalogue, and that was always just a patch-up job. Mm-hmm. And then I remember maybe in 2015, so maybe about 3 years in, I was like, we need to scrap this. We need to do this catalogue ourselves. It's visually, it's rubbish. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I just feel that I can do it.
Was it a physical catalogue or a digital catalogue?
Both.
Oh, both, right.
It ended up both, but at the time it was a physical catalogue. So I was like, we can do this ourselves. Mm-hmm. So the manager at the time was like, all right, if you think you can do it, go for it. And we done it. The first one was good. Mm-hmm. The second one was a lot better because the first one was like a kind of tester period, and it was a massive improvement in what we had before. Because sometimes the images are like 20 years old. I'm not joking. Like some of the images are horrendous. They're like postage stamps and all that manufacturers are giving you. So we done the catalogue, and then the year after that, we really went full on. So that was things like asking all the sales guys, right, what do you think? Can you ask your customers? And then basically doing like kind of customized photo shoots and all that sort of stuff. And then that ended up, was it that one or the one after it, ended up winning like catalogue of the year, the HE award.
Right,
so that was really, really good.
And here's a question for you, again, thinking about, you know, Harry for The Office, that he shared some on social media not too long ago, and it went fairly viral, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people commenting. So our marketing execs, if you like, they're actually titled Meta Paid Ads Specialists, so it's a very specific role, I guess, that they carry for the business. We have 3 of them now. But he was saying that up until he joined us, essentially, every role that he had in marketing, and one in particular that he spoke about when he worked at the blinds company, was you join as a marketing exec, and typically you're one of the only, in inverted commas, marketing people floating about the business, right? Because most small businesses just aren't blessed with the budget to have a full marketing department. So there's not really anybody else kicking about that knows what you know or that's carrying what you need to carry for the business, including the owner. And because of that, you end up going for doing a bit of work on the website, to an email marketer, to maybe a bit of paid ads. All right, I now need to do blogs, or there's a bit of SEO that's required as a result of that work. All right, you need me to manage the socials. Right, I'll pick up the socials as well, the scheduling, the content, and you just broadly become this marketing guy or girl, rather than it being, right, you own content, the next person owns paid ads, the next person owns SEO, kind of as it should be in inverted commas. But was that your experience in your first couple of roles as a marketing exec? Were you just expected to broadly, like, he's the marketing guy, go and speak to him?
I think the first one I think was like one of these sort of employment schemes. So I was brought in basically with a set of skills, and they try to utilise those skills as much as possible. So like creating the videos, doing product photography, updating the website, all that sort of stuff. But the second one definitely was the case. So I think they had a couple of marketing people before that didn't have a background in marketing, didn't have a background in design or anything like that. Like, I would say there's quite a difference between sort of like creative design and marketing. When you can get someone that understands both of them, that's when you're really winning, especially for us.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think having a marketing mindset, you can have a marketing mindset, but not be a creative. You can be a creative, but not have a marketing mindset. But when you've got someone that can do both, that's a big skill. But I mean, so many people that I deal with are just generalists. They're the only marketing person in the business. And then that's the thing, most businesses, you know what I mean, the person in the business is looking after what their job role is. So to them, the most important thing in the business is marketing. But I think when you look at businesses with that sort of model, marketing is not the priority. And in most instances that I can think of, in that sort of model where they've maybe got like one marketing person, it's normally just a get-by person, a generalist, someone that can sort of just do everything.
Well, even I would say a lot, I was going to say a majority, right? I don't actually know if that's statistically accurate, so I'll just say a lot of digital marketing agencies actually have more salespeople than they do people who manage and deliver the service, which we've always found a bit strange and a bit skewed almost. Probably speaks to a broken model. I
would say so.
You've got more people selling the shit than doing the shit. That just for me doesn't stack up right in my head. But all right, mate, cool. So Gap Group, long way there for in the end?
7 years.
7 years, right? Okay, God, that was your first proper career, if you like. Then
so I had my first kind of graduate job in my field. Then after Gap. Then after that was Gap for 7 years. But the good thing about Gap was it was an open canvas. It was a totally blank canvas. So I got, I probably get the experience in Gap in 7 years and with someone else.
Was it clothes, as in actual Gap? Like
no, it's a construction. So it's a construction hire company.
Right,
so it's a big firm. So it's probably a big national hire company.
Right.
So dumpers and diggers and all that sort of stuff. But the good thing about that, it was essentially an open canvas. Like when I went in, there was about 30 different variations of the logo kicking about. The red was orange and the blue was purple, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? People are using this version and that version, and it was just a mess. So the first thing was to basically just go in and fix all of that.
Tidy it all up.
And then it ended up kind of just basically like universally creating a logo and saying, right, this is the logo, this is where you find it, don't use any other logo. And then after that, you're trying to sort of manage what's going out from the business perspective. So like the sales guys that are creating memes and all that on LinkedIn, you're like, that needs to stop. You know what I mean? Stop it. That looks terrible. It makes a business look terrible.
Do you know what though? I actually find that quite tricky, right? Because we've actually been blessed, I guess, with the people that we've brought in recent months that are quite keen to get involved in social. And obviously I think there's a fine line with that, right? Because we want them to, of course, be associated with our business on LinkedIn. We want them to be pushing content out. Want them to, have that creative freedom to go, you don't need to ask me what to post, just it's your social media, crack on. But equally, they are representing the brand, so it's a bit like, oh God, like I want to just say to you, do your thing, and we do for the most part, right? But equally, there is still always that wee worry of what happens if they just go rogue. Do you know, like...
or say, for example, they get embroiled in some sort of political debate. It could be a bit of a minefield, really.
And you're only ever publicly one false move away for being fucked nowadays. Do you know, it's saying the wrong thing and really offending somebody, and then before you know it, do you care about offending people though? See, to be honest, now I don't. No, really, as long as it doesn't impact business. So I wish that my answer was just, I don't give a fuck. I do what I want. I say what I want. The mask is completely down. I'd say that where I'm now versus where I was when I had a corporate career, it's night and day difference. But I don't think that I'm just swaggering about, as they say in Glasgow, saying what I want, doing what I want, and no giving a fuck about the consequences. Because I think when you have a team in particular, you just feel an innate responsibility to make sure that there's always bread on the table for everybody.
Aye.
And so rightly or wrongly, I always have an innate sense of just paranoia about what if I upset the wrong, it's not even upsetting the wrong person, but it's doing something that then gets shared publicly and your business goes from flourishing and doing well to really starting to struggle. So that definitely plays in my head. I wish it didn't, but it does, is the reality.
No, I'm the same as well. Like when I was kind of in the corporate world, I've not really got a personality for corporate world, right? I'm quite just as it is, kind of, you know, what you see is what you get. So, you know, see when you're turning up in the office and people are like, all right, Jamie, you getting there? Aye. You getting there? Aye. What the fuck does that even mean? You know what I mean? Oh, how you doing? How's your week? Aye. And I'm just like, what? I used to just throw a curveball in there every now and again and they'd be like, like, what'd you do the weekend?
Morning, no, I'm not having a good morning actually. And they're like, all right, I wasn't actually asking.
Aye, you confuse them. But I don't know, I just felt like working in a kind of corporate environment, just, I don't like being masked. I don't like masking myself. I don't like, you know, trying to speak a way that I don't normally speak. I don't like acting the way I wouldn't normally act. I don't like no being able to swear.
That was me for a long, long time. You know, I've always been really ambitious. And so because of that, because I wanted to step into management and had senior management, I just had to act and behave in a certain way, otherwise I would never have got there. But I remember just as I was maybe starting to have thoughts about kind of vacating my corporate career and the mask slips and you're a bit like, don't really give a shit now, I actually had people saying to me like, who are you? Like, who is this? Where has this guy been for the last 10 years? Because I guess to a certain extent, you know, that mask was up and I had worked Brian and then I had, you know, which is actually quite sad when I look back at it now. I think that is actually quite sad that I had to just pretend that I'm somebody that I'm not to get along. I'm not even to get along, but to move myself up the ladder. But
I feel like you almost feel like you're acting. Sometimes.
I mean,
you're acting in an environment that you're not comfortable in.
One of the environments I worked in, you know, was all bonus driven, right? But you actually it was called a behavioural multiplier. So your behaviours were tracked, monitored and scored. And they then dictated how much money you did or didn't earn come quarterly bonus time. So that was a big driver as well. It was like, right, I want to do well, I want to earn as much as I can, so I need to behave in a set. And they had a list of behaviours, and it was right, if you ticked that box, if you demonstrated that over and over and over again. So it just, looking back at it now, it feels weird, like to say that was just my life. It almost feels like the military in a certain way, where it's like you need to say things in a certain way, you need to no say things at all. Certainly not something that I'd want for my own business anytime soon. But I guess coming back to your story, mate, right? So title of the podcast is Risking It All. It feels like we're starting to get there. So at some point you would have started to have had thoughts in your head knocking around. I could maybe do this for myself here. 100%. You know, I could maybe actually take a lot of the skills and experience that I've learned in this environment and apply that to my own wee thing, and the opportunities are endless. So can you remember when you started to have those thoughts?
Aye, I can. I think that was quite early for me. Like, I think I was always thinking, I kind of fancy building my own thing. Always fancy, you know, I can do this on my own. And know that you think you're better than anyone else that's doing it, or you're better than the people that you work with, or anything like that. But you're just like, I would quite like to, you know, work on my own sort of projects. I would quite like to have complete control, because no matter how creative you want to get, you're at the whim of what someone tells you to do, what a manager basically tells you to do. So I remember sitting there, and I was like, and I used to work with a guy. And he was a cracking guy, right? But he would always wind me up, and he's like, "You're going to sit on that chair for the rest of your life." I'm like, "No, I'm fucking no." He's like, "You're going to be 65, making your wee videos." But he'd done it all before. He used to run like pubs in Ibiza and all that, Ibiza over in Spain. And he's like, "You're never going to do it." Obviously knowing that he's on the wind up. And I was like, I will. When the time's right, I will. And And he's like, no, you'll know. Right? So I was like, okay, is that right? So I'm thinking, you know, and then that's the thing, like, there's when you look at the confidence and you ask what confidence is. So see, if you looked at me, I would always come across as a very confident person. I could approach a group of people, I could talk to them, I could introduce myself. I never felt uncomfortable in a group of people that I didn't know. Even if they were a bit, in my regards, weird, I'd still just find a way to talk to somebody about something. But starting your own business is a different type of confidence altogether. Having the confidence in yourself to just pack it all in and just go, right, you know, come and do business with me. Because then you're really sort of taking the risk on yourself and your own skills and your own ability and everything else. But for me, I was halfway there. I had already started building a kind of like basically a chest of money, so to speak, to start. You know, because where I wanted to be is I wanted the cameras, I needed all the equipment, which isn't cheap. I needed, you know, the computer at home, which isn't cheap. So I had already kind of started that, but then COVID came. And then COVID gave me, I think, about 8 months when my wee girl had just been born at the time. Right. So, and then after that, I remember jumping on a call and it's like, so the head of HR was there. So as soon as you see that face, you're like, right, I know what this is. But I remember thinking at the time, especially after COVID, I was like, I don't think I want to go back to that. I think the time is right. It feels right. I don't want to go back to that. And then that basically gave me the opportunity. They were like, right, we're making redundancies and you're likely to be one of them. And I was like, well, that honestly suits me. I fancy kind of going out on my own.
Where were you at this point? Were you still at the Gap Group?
Aye.
All right, okay.
So I had been there for just coming up kind of 8 years. And so I got a nice wee redundancy payment and stuff like that. And that basically kickstarted me. Those funds kickstarted me. So I went and I bought my drone. I done my drone training. Basically built like a new PC that was capable of doing the editing and everything. Posted on LinkedIn. Right, that's me. Like, I'm starting. During the middle of COVID, no equipment, no money. You know what I mean? I remember I took a loan out and I got like my Sony A7S III and a couple of lenses and some basic equipment on like 0% interest, and that was me. I took it for there, posted on LinkedIn. You know, I'm doing my own thing now. I got a couple of really good jobs at the beginning and then just never looked back for there, to be honest.
How was your... So what, that would have been 2020, was it?
2020.
2020, yeah. Aye. And year one is often a tough year for most business owners. Aye. How did you find year one, finding your feet with winning business, delivering for clients, managing comms, finance, all the stuff that you don't really have a clue about until you're just in it?
If I could paint a picture of that, it's like getting hit with a tidal wave. That's what it feels like. It genuinely feels like you're getting hit with so much stuff that you have no Scooby about. Tax, you know, things like payroll, paying your tax, employment situations, employment documents, employment contracts, zero, sending invoices, receiving invoices, people no paying you, which is rife. Because you're just naive. You naively think, people obviously just pay their bills.
Aye.
No, they don't.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
Like, I'm in the house, I need to pay my bills on time. Like,
exactly.
That is the way that people think.
But you don't understand that until you do it. But I remember at the very beginning, you know what I mean, I was in Facebook business groups chasing fucking scraps, basically, as most people do, because you're like, I'll take anything. I'll literally take any job that you want me to do, I'll take it. So I'm doing like wee daft invites, and some of those wee daft invites were cracking me jobs. But you're literally, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful manner, but you're kicking about with the sort of bottom of the barrel businesses that want a hell of a lot for virtually nothing. And the sooner you understand you need to get out of that and you need to avoid that is where your business will start building, in my opinion. Like, once you get away from that mindset, once you start actually appreciating your business and the value that it can bring to other businesses, and you step away from these, can you just do me a wee video for 200 quid type things, you're like, that's when it starts becoming a proper business. But then for there, So I had a goal in my head, you know what I mean? I wanted to get a car. I wanted to get like a business vehicle. I wanted a unit. I wanted all these things, and with it, like, so my 5-year goals were achieved in like the first 18 months. So I had the unit, I had a member of staff, I had all my equipment that I had wanted. But that was just hard work, man. That was working till 2 a.m. That was working away, just basically constantly, just working. And you'll know yourself, you can't. That's not a sustainable way of living. You need a structure. You need a time structure in particular.
Aye.
If you're just knocking your pan in 24/7, it's not going to be good for you.
I kind of gave myself, in my head anyway, 18 months to 2 years of hell. So my routine for a long time, because I guess I wasn't as ballsy as you, or I wasn't made redundant, so I couldn't quite just take as much risk, I guess, as I would have hoped. You know, with a mortgage, I kid myself. We had to build it up on the side until it was ready for one of us to step in, and then the next person stepped in. But my life, really, for a while was get up in the morning, bit of time with the wee one and the missus, start the 9 to 5, and I loved all my jobs, especially the last job that I had. It's one of the most fulfilling jobs I've ever had in my life. I worked at Macmillan Cancer Support. My gaffer was the best gaffer I've ever had in my life by a country mile. But just something was missing. It just wasn't quite fulfilling me. So I'd do my 9 to 5, and then, you know, I'd have maybe an hour with the wee one and the missus again, dinner, bath time routine. She used to actually go to bed at a reasonable time back then. Now she's up later than me. And then when they would go down to bed, 7:30, 8 o'clock, it was like shift 2 started, and that was me to 1, 2 in the morning. Did that probably for 6 days a week. You know, tried to be disciplined around at least having one day off fully at the weekend if I could, to avoid burnout. I don't even know how long we did that for in the end. It probably was about 13, 14 months, but in my head I thought, I can only really do that for 18. You can't sustain that your entire life. Do you know, it's just with the best will in the world, it'll break you eventually. But if that's the sacrifice it's needed to get it proper going, proper off the ground and get a bit of momentum going, then cool, I'll do it. And I think at the time you don't even really realise the impact that it's having on you. Like,
physically, no.
I was still going to be on holiday in the summer with my family and, you know, my in-laws. But I wasn't really on holiday. I was there physically, 100%. But mentally my head was elsewhere. My head's in my phone constantly, because ultimately there's only 2 of us at the time trying to manage a business. But I'm interested to hear, like, I think part of the reason why I was able to get through that is because I have a business partner, so we could share the difficulties, the challenges. You could share ideas. I'm thinking this, what do you think? Oh, aye, that sounds good, but maybe tweak that. You've obviously not had that to get going. Was that tough? Like, did you feel like you were properly going it alone?
Aye. So that's the thing. Like, see when you ask someone that runs a business, and you ask, how's business going? And it's fine, aye. You sort of know when sort of, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you ask a business owner that started it and built it the way maybe you and I have, you've made all those sacrifices, you know what I mean? It's not uncommon to go to bed worrying and waking up, and it's the first thing, that worry just kicks back in. You're worrying about maybe money, making payroll, you've maybe got a problem project. It never stops. That's the good thing. The thing that I suppose I miss about the corporate world is that you can leave that job behind as soon as you walk out the doors, and then you're spending time with your kids. But it's quite commonplace, you know what I mean? I'll be spending time with my kids, but I'm just completely thinking about something, and I'm not really there. I'm not really present. I'm sitting on my phone. You know, it's just there constantly, and it's like, even in your sleep, you dream about it. You worry about it. So for me, for example, when I started the business, obviously I had started it in COVID, but then my wee boy wasn't well. So my wee boy was basically taken into hospital, treated for a week with bronchitis, and then he came out on a Friday, and then the Sunday we had to go back in, and then that basically kick-started like 8 months of pure hell So I've recently just started this business, because it was during COVID. So my wee boy was put on oxygen and all that. He was really no well. We didn't know what was the matter with him. He was just grey and gaunt and suffering, couldn't breathe properly. He was just constantly mucousy and everything else. So this probably went on for about 8 months until we really kind of understand what was going on. So he's got like a rare lung condition.
Right.
But during that time, during COVID, I was basically stuck in a room with this ill wee boy who was miserable. And it felt like prison, to be perfectly honest. Because it was COVID, you couldn't even leave the room. It was 24 hours in the room. Then his mum would come, then I would leave. Then I would spend that day doing work, that full 20 hours or whatever it is. Then I'd be back in the next day, and then I'd be back out. But over time, that's not sustainable. So like an example was, I was doing a drone job one time, and I was on a call. It was like a kind of virtual reality walkthrough. So I was doing like these kind of 360 panoramics of the JP Morgan building. And it was a team in Chicago. But I had kind of said to them, listen, like, I'm in a hospital, my wee man. This is a situation. So we're halfway through this call, and the wee man's alarms just all start kicking off. He's kicking off. So there's doctors running in, there's nurses running in. All the while I'm in this call. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh my God. And that, to be honest, was like a good example of just how chaotic that 8 months was. You know, you're just having to drop everything. So I might have a drone shoot booked, a video shoot booked, and I just have to drop it last minute and say, listen, my wee man's back in. And know that it makes you look unprofessional, but it just makes you really, really struggle. So that was mega hard to go through. Not only are you in your first year, you're trying to figure it all out, but then you've also got the added difficulty of finding work during COVID. And then I've got all this kicking on with the wee man. So literally at any point, boom, back in the hospital, and then that's you in for 24 hours. But over time, it wasn't going to be sustainable. Either the business was just going to fail. So my mum basically took like a kind of extended leave for work, and she started rotating in. So that was me. I would go into the hospital 1 in 3 days, which gave me 2 days to do all the work. Plus we had a wee girl at home at the time as well, who obviously needed time and looked after and everything else. So that was absolutely brutal, to be perfectly honest. I'm turning up to sites, not even had any sleep to do drone jobs, which isn't ideal, you know what I mean? You want to be fresh, you want to feel good, and I'm just turning up. But at the end of the day, I just battered through it, and you had to get it. You just had to do it. You had to get it done. But that difficulty, when you start talking to a business owner, you almost know, you can tell when someone started and built it, you know what I mean? Because they're honest about it. Like this sort of, there's almost like a mask. But how's business? That's fine. Well, it's not always fine, you know what I mean? Just be honest. If it is fine, brilliant. But I know a lot of people that struggle. And even when it's fine.
Even when business is good and fine, it's still fucking hard, really difficult. And I tried really hard to not put anybody off. Do you know, like we need more people to take a wee risk and go, fuck it, I'm going to go for this myself. Because in my opinion, and it's easy to say this now, but when you're a bit more established, the pros most definitely outweigh the cons. But that's just, I guess, time and motion stuff. If you asked me that back then, I'd maybe be like, I don't really know if the fucking pros do outweigh the cons, to be honest. But it's really, really difficult. But I always think quite refreshing, actually, when you meet people like yourself and, a few others through networking circuits and whatever. You just know there's an air of authenticity. And I won't bullshit. Again, sometimes I feel the pressure to like keep the mask up and everything's good, everything's fine, business is growing, we're doing really well. When really underneath you're a bit like, oh my God, I feel like the walls are caving in here. And that can actually happen, I find, at any moment. So we might go for... so actually, I'll give a real-time example. We went for having a record revenue month a couple of months ago, maybe 3 months ago, and you're like, this is amazing, this is everything we've dreamed of. We can invest in the business, we can hire people, upgrades in the office, all the stuff that business owners want, to like... And then feeling quite arrogant about it almost, and then rolling into the next month and getting to halfway through the month and being like, we're struggling here. Like, what the fuck has happened? We've went for like Cloud9 high-fiving, taking the team out, literally taking the team out to a Japanese place for lunch. Not quite popping bottles, bottles of Diet Coke, because it was a working day, but having a good time. Till like 2 weeks later, going, fucking, we're struggling now. Like, and then you're like, you recover it quite quickly, but it sometimes feels like you go for this ultimate high. It's like you feel like the walls are caving in. They're no in reality, but there's just an innate sense of you go for, I think, extreme highs to extreme lows.
Definitely.
And I don't know if that, again, is just because we're still a relatively small and immature business. I don't know if that's something that in time just it gets a bit steadier. I hope so, to be honest, because I don't know if my nerves can keep at it for much longer. But I don't know if that's just your experience or if your experience is similar
the same,
to that.
like, and then that's the thing. So see if I look at myself now compared to maybe what I was like when I started, there was definitely so much naivety. I just presumed that people would pay. I just presumed that people would be authentic. I just presumed that everybody, would do what they're going to do. A good example is we built 2 websites for a firm in Hong Kong. We took 25% deposits for each, built these websites, and they basically just ghosted us. So that very, very close to wiped us out. I managed to get through that with an absolute midge's bother. Like, that was tough. That was proper. You're no sleeping, and then you're like, that can never happen again. But that's one of those experiences that you need that to happen before you improve yourself. And you change your model, you change your payment models. You're like, this can never happen again. Not that it won't happen again, but at least, like, we've built sites that I've started building websites, I've started doing projects that the client has basically just disappeared halfway through. Like, right, okay, but at least I've been paid for the work that I've done.
And for people that are listening, right, maybe not in business but have an interest in getting into business and might be thinking, what is he on about? Like, why on earth would a company not pay you after they've agreed to do something? Just, I guess, fill the listener in on, what do you mean? What is the context of that?
Well, think about it, like, in terms of us, we don't have like a massive bank of, we don't have 2 years worth of revenue to lean on. Like, if you have a particularly bad month, that can the staggering effect of that can travel into 2-3 months. It can take you 2-3 months to recover from that. Like, those 2 websites that I was talking about took the best part of a year to financially recover for that mistake. And that's the thing. Like, it's not just the no getting paid for the job. It's the domino effect it has after that as well. In terms of no getting paid as well, like, I don't know about you guys, but it can be really bad at times, depending on the sector as well.
Construction, I think, is pretty bad. But I used to always say we're blessed or we're fortunate, right? I guess we've deliberately set it up like this, but thankfully, and really thankfully, we don't really have too much issue with this because we don't work until we're paid in full. So we take payment in full and then we deliver, which I think just due to the nature of what we do, it makes sense and you can get away with it. So most agencies do. But I think we are an exception. Most, it's like, right, you might collect a deposit. For some, there's no deposit involved. You do the work, and then with construction in particular, they might have 30-day payment terms, 60-day payment terms. So for anybody that's listening that's thinking, what the hell does he mean? Let's say Jamie's commissioned to do a bit of work and he agrees a price with the client, and the client might have 30-day payment terms. So Jamie delivers the work at his cost, and then he sends an invoice to the client, and they've then got 30 days to pay that invoice. But that obviously creates a bit of a cash flow issue because you're having to pay for, your time, potentially other people's labour, equipment, etc., etc. The travel, the list goes on, I guess.
That's if they pay in those 30 days. So quite commonly what you'll find is there'll be a delaying tactic to push it into the next month, which they say, we can only pay at the end of the month. So your 30 days become 60 days. That's quite common. Again, through experience, you sort of you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So you're like, right. So the way that I work my financing is I expect to get 70% of my payments in, which may sound unbelievable to some people. I don't know, but I'm expecting them to get paid at least 30% and a budget for that. You know what I mean? So obviously your priority list is like things like your VAT, your payroll, that sort of stuff. But things like equipment are the luxuries, new equipment. Like I can do with no having, you know, a new lens or a new camera. What I can't afford to do is miss VAT payments and miss payroll payments and all that sort of stuff. But that's just, I suppose that comes with the experience of running the business. And you've always got, I sort of changed our model as well, that we do this sort of marketing package. So it's like a website, it can be a new brand, it can be a video, and we basically deliver all of that. And I basically charge that over 12 months, which sort of steadies our cash flow. So we've got a good number of them that come in every month, and it means we sort of steady the ship a little bit. Because, for example, if we had like maybe a really quiet month or 2 really quiet months, like that
could
can
be in
put you
trouble.
in serious trouble. And I think most businesses are the same, especially kind of smaller agencies. We don't have, you know, massive amounts of equity sitting as a reserve. And again, that's the thing with construction. You look at construction, like these subcontractors. I've had clients that have basically been wiped out because like their invoices just haven't been paid or they've been delayed. I think delaying an invoice is quite a common tactic as well. You know what I mean? You create a problem. You create a, you know, there's a problem with this, there's a problem with that, and then that invoice doesn't get released. But once the big boys pay, it all trickles down, and then suddenly you're getting paid for about 3 or 4 construction clients at the same time on the same day. But that's the thing. Like, see, when I look at construction as a model, so these big contractors, you know what I mean, they need things like human slavery policies. They need policies for their cybersecurity. They need policies for everything, but they don't need any policy to prove that they pay their bills.
Aye. There was a lot of noise once upon a time. Well, a couple of years ago, there was a lot of noise that there was going to be this public register that contained, but I think that's mainly for huge corporations that don't pay their bills on time. Then they'd essentially be outed. Now, there isn't a podcast guest really that we've had on in construction in particular that hasn't raised this issue, right? And I think I've went round the houses with this, and my viewpoint now, I think, is that every business owner's in control of their own terms, right? So if you choose to work in that sector and you choose to sign up to 60-day payment terms, for example, knowing that all this stuff's going on, but you choose to do it because the carrot that they dangle is it's worth more, it's big jobs, that's your choice, right? You work to your terms and you're well within your rights actually to go, they terms don't suit me, so I'm not going to do that. Or here's a counter proposal rather than me waiting 60 days to get paid. But people, I think, too often just they eat what's served up to them, right? There's no challenge on it. It's just these are the terms, like it or lump it. I personally would never put my business in that position where I'm waiting 60 days to be paid for something, because in the meantime I've still got rent, cars, employees. It just puts you in a cash flow position that I don't think that you need to be in personally. Now, does that mean that in the short term you learn less? Probably, aye. But I personally would just, I'd rather have that, I'd rather be able to put my head down at night, no worrying about somebody paying an invoice to be able to pay my team members and pay myself and keep our house over a roof. So, but I don't think MDs get the answer. You know, it's like everybody's got ideas, but the reality is that's where all the cash sits. They control it, but you can pick and choose whether you want to work with them or not. You know, and it's a bit. I've had God knows how many examples, even in the last 5 or 6 months. One of our clients, was doing some subcontracted electrical work for somebody down south, racked up a 96 grand bill. They moved the assets for the old co to a new co, wrapped the old co, and he's then left thinking that he's getting 96 grand, and he's a small business owner, they're not huge. Goes for,
and you've got to ask yourself though, is that the business owner's fault for letting that build?
That's kind of my point.
That's that naivety
I don't even know that it is naivety. I think in construction in particular, folk go, well, that's just the way it is. But if you own your own business, you're signing up to that. You know, it's not like you just rock up one day and go, all right, I thought I was going to get paid today, I'm not getting paid for 90 days. Oh well, that's fine. The terms are made clear to you before you set out and do the work, so you're choosing to accept that. And if you're choosing to accept that and it's 60-day payment terms, for example, but you know through experience that 60 in reality is probably 90 or 120 by the time they push it out, you're deciding to take the work on. It's you that's making that commercial decision to go, I will sign ourselves up to that. So I'm no for a minute suggesting it's your fault. Like, you know, it's still shoddy practice. Shouldn't happen. It's garbage that it does happen. But the reality is it does happen. So,
and that's the thing. See, if you look at like public tenders, see these big contractors and stuff like that. See if there was like almost like a payment scoring system. So you need, for example, you need to pay 90% of your invoices within your agreed terms.
Yep.
And if they don't have that, they don't get the contract.
Don't get the contract.
So as I says, you know what I mean? There's so many requirements for, you know, human trafficking policies and this policy and that policy, environment policies. But there's no any sort of requirement for making sure that, because it can't be that hard to set something like that up. It can't be.
The classic one is the old pay run. It's like, oh, you've missed the pay run. I mean, in reality, a pay run, in inverted commas, is a fucking bank transfer.
Aye.
Do you know what it's like? It's no this big convoluted. We have a pay run for our employees, but it is still just a scheduled bank transfer. If I miss it and there was an issue, I could sort it in under 30 seconds. It's just, you know, you touched on it as delayed tactics. It's people just holding money for as long as they can.
We bet he's away to Benidorm who does our accounts. Nobody else can do it. So your business can't transfer money for 10 days.
For 10 days,
I don't think that's correct.
Exactly, aye. So, mate, I'm with you. It's shit. It's really, it creates real pinch points for small businesses in particular. But I equally think there is an onus and responsibility on small business owners to go, well, actually, I don't need to sign up to the terms. I don't need to do that work. Or, dare I say it, propose new terms. These are our terms, and if you want our expertise and skills, it's their terms or it's nothing, because I need to look after my team in the same way that you're trying to look after yours.
I think that goes back to, you know, when I first started out, I'm on these Facebook business groups looking for scraps, fighting for scraps. It goes, over time, you sort of get that confidence to be like, nah, I don't want that job. Like, see, once you get into a position where you're identifying and basically just no bothering about crappy jobs.
Aye.
Because especially in the drone world, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got a job at the moment, or I had an inquiry coming in for like a 2-hour job. And they're like, oh, can you just make it a 1 hour? Can you reduce half the price, make it a 1 hour? No, because I still need to prepare my kit. I still need to get there. So I'm just like, nah, forget about it, mate. But once you're in that, I suppose you could say that's almost like a luxury, just to be able to like, nah, it's no worth it.
It comes with success. Just in the beginning, you're desperate. You know, especially if you've taken a risk and you've big boy shit, bills to pay, kids to feed, you'll do anything. You know, like, I was never a big social media guy ever, but then the minute I stepped into this, I'm all at it, and folk are like, God, you've sure changed. And I'm like, look, nothing will put your feet closer to the fire when your salary's taken away for you and you don't have guaranteed money coming in, and this is the shit that you need to do to drive inquiries, which drives revenue, which pays the bills. So, you know,
that's the thing as well though. See, when, you know, if you're looking at a wee quiet period, or things do start taking a bit of a downturn, it sort of gives you a bit of a bit up the arse, so to speak, to be like, right, you know what, I'll get on top of my social media content. I'll get on top of making that wee reel that I kept, you know, putting back. You'll sort of double down and start improving on the business when things are getting, because let's be fair, see, when things are going really well, you're kind of stowed. Are you caring about, you know, constantly putting stuff out in social? No, really.
Aye.
You should be, and then that's another thing that I always talk about when I'm kind of talking to business owners, is spend your money when you're making your money. See, when times are good, that's when you really want to be investing in things like professional video production. You know, upping your ad spend when things are good. Don't wait until things are quiet, because if you're in a downward trajectory, it can take time for that to come back up. And then desperate. For us, exactly, you get desperate. But then if a business comes to us and I'm having that first meeting, right, what you're looking to do, or we're not making any money, that's instantly alarm bells in it, because you're like, well, if I do a video for you, I might
How am
not
I
get paid for
getting
it.
paid? Aye, exactly.
It might be too late. Like you might be nosediving because you've no basically put the foundations in place when you were doing well. So when you're doing well, that's the perfect time to invest in things. That's the perfect time to, improve your website, get a new website, get videos done, get social media content done, get a new van.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's having that conversation to be like, and you said it earlier, and it is, see the first time as a business owner that big payment comes into the bank balance, you're like, fucking yes. It's a great feeling because you know what I mean, you've done that work, it's your business, that money's came in, but you can almost get carried away sometimes with that. So I think sometimes you just need to take a wee step back and just kind of,
Listen, more often than not, it's fucking relief when the payments land. That's the feeling you feel, is a feeling of relief rather than, oh my God, we've made it. It's like, oh, we can breathe for a bit, certainly that's my experience anyway.
100%.
But listen, we've touched around, a lot of the challenges of business and what's brought you to this point, but we've not actually spoke about naming your business, what do you specialise in? So just tell us a bit about, Squinty Pixels.
Squinty Pixels, so when I was kind of starting out, I was looking at like Horizon Creative and everything else, and I was like, it's just not right. It needs to have the Glasgow attitude. It needs to, say it's from Glasgow. It's got that kind of central belt of Scotland location to it, but it's kind of digital. And I was like, Squinty Pixels. I was like, I like that actually, and I got so much positive feedback on that. Just the name itself, people kind of laugh when they hear the name. They're like, I like that. But then that's a conversation I have with people quite a lot. Is when you're naming your business, you know what I mean? Like I hear so many businesses named like ADM Joinery.
Aye.
What does ADM mean? Oh, that's my Wayne's names.
Aye.
That's great, but I'm never going to remember that. Like there's nothing in that name that really stands out. Whereas Squinty Pixels is a standout name. You know what I mean? People are like, that's kind of tongue in cheek. And the good thing is I can get the Squinty Pixels social media handles. Because you know what I mean, you search for Squinty Pixels, you're not going to find anybody else apart from us. But that was basically just trying to get that little bit of kind of Glasgow in it, because at first I done the the cone and the head and all that sort of stuff, and that's where it started from. And I was like, it's kind of already been done. And then I was like, right, the Squinty Bridge. But then I was like, I felt like the side on kind of view of the bridge didn't look that nice, so I took more of a kind of side element to it. But I'm going to probably change it slightly and probably remove the bridge from the logo. We've kind of been transitioning away to that, but that was that. I just wanted to have a bit of Glasgow kind of humour in it, really.
And what does the business specialise in? What are your primary services now?
So our primary services are kind of professional video production for businesses. So that kind of we work predominantly with sort of trade businesses, construction businesses, and that's pulling the drone videos together, pulling B-roll content together, doing kind of on-site interviews, and basically telling a story. We don't classify ourselves as like content producers as such. It's more we tell stories. You know what I mean? So things like a project video. So we've got guys that are professional colour artists and all that sort of stuff, high quality kind of video production purely for businesses. But then on the other kind of wing of it, we've also got a design element as well, which is web design, branding, things like pop-up banners and all your kind of printed materials and stuff like that as well, and digital design as well, so things like corporate documents, presentations, that sort of stuff. So basically anything that's designed and created for businesses.
Right,
that's what we like to do. We're not a digital marketing agency, so we don't do things like PPC or SEO, or we don't do things like marketing strategy or anything like that.
Leave that to the good guys.
Leave that to the good guys, aye. Aye, but essentially, I would say a kind of key kind of selling point is that I like to go in, I like to meet people face to face, I like to understand the DNA of the business, and I'm always totally honest. So it'll be like, right, okay, this is where we are. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried that? Like, what is the purpose of a video? Because that's something that always kind of surprises me sometimes as I go in and I'll meet with someone, right, we bought a video. Why? Oh, our competitors just released one. Right, okay. So what do you want the video to say? I don't know. Right, we need, like, let's have a think then. You want to basically highlight what your services are? You want to highlight a project that you've done in the past? Are you wanting to, get case studies on your website? Are you want to put it on social media? The amount of videos that I've done that have been posted on LinkedIn once and just left in the abyss, I'm like, it's such a waste because it's an asset. Post it every month for the next 12 months.
Mate, I think that's because we've spoke about this offline anyway, right? But I don't mind covering all ground. Business owners naively think that people care and that they're following their every move. I can't post it again. I posted it 3 weeks ago. And do you think anybody actually noticed, or do you think anybody's going to notice if you post the same thing again? And more to the point, even if they do notice, do you think they're going to say anything? Do you think they're going to chin you and go, why are you posting that again? Like, and even if they do tell them to go and fuck themselves, what has it got to do with them? It's probably your great auntie that you've no spoke to for fucking 20 years anyway. But I think a lot of business owners, I think, fall into that trap of like, oh, people are watching my every move. I can't post that again.
People don't care. That may sound quite bizarre, but they don't care. It's almost it's like a selfish thing, and that's when people are selling as well. In terms of videos, you don't want to be like, right, we do this, we do that, we do this, we do that, we do this. You want to tell a story with your video. You want to identify a problem and say how it can be fixed. So rather than just bombarding people with the DFS adverts and it's pure, we sell this, we sell that, it puts people off. You know what I mean? Whereas if you start a video, like say we're talking solar, for example, if you're saying we saved this client £5,000 in their first quote. Oh, that sounds quite cool. Let's learn more. It's just that kind of mindset as well. And just look at advertising, for example. And I say this quite a lot. Like, the face of how businesses market themselves has completely changed. 20 years ago, it was things like Yellow Pages, wee flyer through the door, van livery. Now it's completely changed. It couldn't be any more different.
Let me help bring that to life for you. My wife, who I mentioned earlier, that's a teacher, her first degree was in marketing.
Right.
I now own a marketing business, and the techniques that we use to market didn't exist when she did her uni degree. Exactly. And that doesn't speak to her being really old. She's not at all. It's just things have changed at such a pace that she was learning about bus posters and leaflets and Yellow Pages, some of the stuff you've mentioned, and now it's Facebook, it's Google, it's Bing, it's YouTube, it's TikTok, etc. But here's a question for you, right? Because I've certainly had thoughts of this, right? So I know we're in talks now about doing something together for our business, but I think a lot of business owners will be thinking what I was thinking right before I spoke to you, which is, well, I'm a digital marketer, which sounds saucy, right? But the reality of doing that effectively is sitting at a fucking PC for 8 hours a day, right? So in my head, whenever I first met you and I seen some of your work and was like, oh, I'd love to do some work with that guy, that looks amazing. But then thought, well, what have I got to fucking showcase? I'm sitting at a MacBook for 8 hours pushing buttons, asking the team to help me with something, maybe doing the odd bit in the whiteboard, then I go and pick the rain up. So for other business owners that are maybe listening or watching and thinking, well, I'd love to do something, high spec and really showcase what the business does, but what have I got to showcase? What I do is, in inverted commas, boring. How do you help bring out to them what it is that they do and then story tell and turn that into something that's actually engaging?
I think it's quite easy for people to think what they do is boring, but it's not boring to other people. Again, so if I was to say like personal branding, for example, a lot of people think, oh, no one's going to care what I've got to say. That's not true. People care about your knowledge. You know what I mean? And it's the same with your business. People care. People will care about the problems that you can solve for them. We've created videos for all sorts of businesses. Some businesses, you're like, how the hell are we going to create a video for that? So you've seen our Sopranos video, I presume?
I have.
So that's a gardening business. It's like, right, I want to do something different. How do we go about that? Let's create a spoof Glasgow Sopranos video. Nothing to do with gardening. Absolutely nothing to do with gardening, but just purely creative. Something completely out the box. Like if you're creating videos that are identical to what everyone else is doing, everybody in your sector is doing the exact same videos and everything else, you're basically fighting for the same wee share of the pie. And if you do something completely creative, something completely different, that's going to get noticed a lot more. And you'd be surprised how, like, that's the value in us, you know what I mean? Let me come up with the ideas. Let me come in, because you'll sort of be closed in your own mind. Like, you'll see what your competitors do, and that's what you might think that you need. But I can come in, I can bring a completely fresh idea. Like, I can come in with completely fresh ideas. I can sit down and have a think, right, what other key points, what other key selling points? Do we use humour? You know what I mean? Do we use storytelling? Do we use things like case studies and stuff like that to tell the story? I suppose the thing, just, you know, get in touch with me, I have a chat with them, and then for there we kind of create the ideas. But I think a lot of business owners are very, very kind of close-minded, and they need to do what the competitors are doing. And so many sectors, see my old industry, the hire sector, it's so bad for that, is that they all just kind of copy each other. And I'm like, there's so many creative ways you can go round about it without just doing what everyone else is doing. I mean, the Sopranos video being that was crazy. That was wild. He came to me with that idea, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? What? And then the more we kind of talked about it, I was like, right, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And then we done a Royal Navy spoof as well, and that was brilliant fun. That was absolutely class. So it was like, right, let's make a Royal Navy spoof, and let's make it in Blantyre. And it's a wee guy, you know what I mean, he's working in the flower shop, he hates it, and then he joins the CM Gardens team, and we've got you know, we're away to Balmaha, we've got the drones up on top of, is it Tintle Hill? And it's just visually it's just a masterpiece, but it's also a bit of a piss take as well. It's just funny, but that got so much traction, man. Like, he was stowed out, and even the Sopranos video as well, it got so much traction and interaction just because it's completely different. People go, what the hell is this?
Aye. All right, mate, cool. And what's the future plans for Squinty Pixels? So some business owners are like, I want to take it to the moon. I want it to be the biggest, baddest, hiring 1 million people, earning £1 billion. Others are like, I just want a lifestyle business that does me well. I enjoy it. I don't dread going to work every day. Where are you at? What are you thinking is the plan for Squinty Pixels over the next maybe 5-10 years?
Aye. So my aim is definitely to sort of build the video and the drone team. I think when I had first started out, I was doing kind of I was doing the web design, I was doing the graphics and stuff like that, and then I was also doing the videos, and then I kind of pulled staff in. But I think I've kind of maybe taken my eye off. I've tried to sort of stick with things that I probably shouldn't have done, like manage social content. For me, managed social content just doesn't make enough compared to video production. Like, we were charging close to what I would charge for a half-day rate, and for that they're getting like a half-day rate anyway. They're getting all their reels edited, they're getting the research, they're getting the posting, all that sort of stuff. So you kind of learn as you go. But I think now I really want to focus purely on video production and purely on like the drone work and everything else. We do these kind of marketing packages, which includes, you know, a new brand, a new website. It will include like a video shoot and a photo shoot. So when we're building the websites, we don't need to rely on crappy stock American images. So see, like, you go on a website and it's, you know, get the American high vis and the hard hat, and then, or other ones,
cactuses
it's just
in the background, and palm trees in the background.
I just look
for a business in Hamilton.
Exactly. And then some other ones just look like, it looks like you've tried to make a picture of diversity. You know what I mean? It's got like an Asian ma and an African dad and a blue Wayne, and it just doesn't look authentic. You know what I mean? So we go out and we do the photo shoots. I want to kind of keep pushing them, keep pushing these kind of this full marketing package. But essentially, I want to grow. I want to build the creative agency. But now I've reduced my lanes. I think before, where I was sort of trying to cover everything, I want to purely focus on, you know, web design, branding, and mainly video and drone, because I think, to be honest, that's what we do best. Our websites are good, our graphic content, that's all good, but I think our video and our drone stuff is where we really excel.
And I think that's like very typical of folk in our space. Is it's hard to say no to money. So, and I think by nature, folk that are in that kind of creative and marketing space feel like they can turn their hand to most things. So when a client phones and says, could you do X for me and I'll pay you Y? More often than not, even if you've not got it in the locker, the easier thing is just to go, yeah, I could do that, no bother. And then you're onto YouTube learning on the fly. And as a result of that, your service list just grows and grows and grows and grows. But we went full 360 in that sense, that our service list grew and grew and grew. But essentially all that happened is it stretched the people or the resource that existed within the team thinner and thinner and thinner. So we were doing 7 things really averagely rather than just doing 1 or 2 things exceptionally. In August-ish of last year, I think, we binned everything bar 1 thing.
Really?
Literally everything. We used to do web design, logo design, PPC, TikTok ads, Bing ads, YouTube ads, Meta ads. We ditched everything other than Meta ads, which meant that for a short period of time we had to continually say no to money, which sucked. But our business has doubled in size since we've did that, and that's because everybody, literally every person in the business focuses on delivering one thing and one channel to one target customer over and over and over again. Does it get boring sometimes? Aye. But I'd rather have a boring, stable business than an exciting, fucking chaotic business, which is really what we had beforehand. And don't get me wrong, every now and then you veer out of the lane just because you want something that's a bit exciting. We're doing a bit of email marketing just now, which is working out pretty well. But I think that's quite typically folk in the agency space, in inverted commas, is we find it hard to say no to money because more often than not they have that growth mindset as well, where it's like, if I don't know that, I'll learn it in 2 months or a month. So I just give me the cash, I'll figure it out as I go. But no always the best way or the easiest way to scale your business in my experience.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. See, just double down on what you do best. That's where my focus is going to be, double down on what I do best, which is creating kind of drone video work, really, essentially. Kind of business promo videos, case study videos, that sort of thing. A
perfect example of that is the studio that we're sat in. You
exactly.
know, put your earplugs in, Cammy. I don't want your heat to get too big, mate, but you know, I'm sure they do other bits and bobs, but their primary focus clearly is in the high-end, you know, podcast production. I'm sure probably could turn their hand to a million other things. But when you niche down and just get focused on doing one thing exceptionally well. And I think in time what actually happens is folk niche down, get successful and then start broadening out again. So once you've got a bit of extra resource within the team, you then have that luxury of going, do you know what, go away in a 2-day course and learn how to, I don't know, become a PPC guy or file for tenders for us so that we can apply for public sector work, because the fucking portals that you use, they speak double Dutch and it's impossible to use them. And but when it's just you or maybe you and 1 or 2 team members and you're trying to do 6, 7, 8 services, it all just becomes a distraction, I think.
It becomes very difficult as well, because you then I always revert back to this. When we were doing managed social media, 90% of the problems were coming from managed social media. It was making, you know, 25% of our revenue. You know what I mean? I was like, why am I doing this? But this was a big mistake on my part. I was insisting it was going to work because it worked at the start. And then obviously we had staff leave, new staff come in, blah, blah, blah. And me personally, I just wasn't focused on it enough. You know what I mean? I was purely focused on video work, and I think that's what we're known for, to be honest, is our video work and our web design work, which I think we quite uniquely bring together. So when we're doing our web work, we use our kind of video arm of the business to bring the videos into the website. So like the web header videos, they're very visual websites, you know, the bespoke photo shoots, all that sort of stuff. So it all kind of builds together. But in terms of like the managed socials, it just felt like an extra thing that we were doing, and it was causing me so much grief. And actually, see, when I get rid of that, yes, obviously there was less revenue coming into the business. But see, when I got rid of that, it was such a fucking relief.
Aye.
The levels of stress that just instantly disappeared was unbelievable. Simply because I done something a year later that I should have done,
beforehand.
Way beforehand.
Oh,
that was me just that was my stubbornness.
And
aye. I think in business you can't be stubborn.
Aye.
Something works or it doesn't. It doesn't matter whether you've got an affection for it. Mm-hmm. You need to be black and white. I
think that's where, again, having a business partner maybe does give 100%. You a bit of an unfair advantage, because it's easier to be data-led because one can say to the other, I don't really care what your thoughts or feelings are on this. It's the data's telling us X, so let's pivot that way. Now, the trade-off there is sometimes you do need to concede. There's sometimes where you feel strongly about something, but you can tell they feel even stronger about doing it the opposite way. So you just go, like any relationship, you need to concede to make it work. But more often than not, we're in our space in particular, you're blessed with data and insight, and so it's quite easy just to go, well, look, the data's telling you, or listen to the team are telling you this is a pile of shit, it's doing everybody's head in, we're making hardly any money. And I don't know, another thing I think that agencies can be quite bad for, we're certainly better at it now than we've ever been, but have struggled with it before, is when a client phones you and goes, could you do just a wee, X, Y or Z, it's just a wee amendment to the scope, and you go, aye, fuck it, why no, we've worked together for years now, and don't worry, I'll not charge you any extra for it. And then before you know it, you're working till 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, or you're asking a team member to take more on to get that delivered, and you're like, why am I not fucking charging for that work? That is crazy. Why would we do that? Other businesses would never dream. So it's almost like somebody, again, if I use the studio as an example, and phoning, Cam or Mark and going, can I just use the studio for a couple of hours and no pay for it? They're like, no, can you fuck? But I don't know, there's just this weird thing where you go, aye, that's cool, I'll do it.
Is that maybe just a creative thing? Is that a marketing thing where I think we're almost too nice? Could you imagine, and I get this constantly, right? I'm like, oh, can you just make this update, or can we just get a wee this or just get a wee that? Could you imagine sending that out to a lawyer? Oh, what, you just do me a wee? Not a chance.
Aye, they charge in 6 minute increments.
You almost, it's the weird thing is that you can almost feel quite bad, as if you're meant to feel guilty about asking for more money for something that you're doing. You can't be like that.
Aye.
You know what I mean? I would never expect someone to go and work an extra 4 hours on something for me ever. So why am I feeling a bit kind of giddy about asking the client for the same? You know what I mean? And I think again, it just comes back to experience. You almost harden, you become resilient. If I look at the very beginning, I said, we built 2 websites that we never get paid for.
Aye.
Just out of stupidity and naivety and lack of experience. Now, would that happen? Never.
Aye.
No way. It it hardens you up. You become more resilient and you become wiser. So now I'm just like, well, I can do that, but it's going to cost X.
Aye, that's it, mate. It's experience, and I think being smart enough to try and systemize it almost. So, we've got a sales rep now, and we're still very much working on this, but trying to get into a position where if somebody asks me for something or they ask Barry for something, we might have a 3-year relationship, a 4-year relationship with this client. Whether we want it or no, you're emotionally tied in. But see, passing it off to a sales rep that doesn't give a fuck about anything other than making money for the agency and themselves, that's arguably the best thing to do. It's like, can you do that for me? Aye, we can. Let me pass you along to X person. He'll speak to you about the cost of doing that. And then I don't need to worry about, but I like that client, we've been with for a long time, so just don't charge them for it. Anyway, I'm digressing now, so I guess that feels like a nice moment to wrap the podcast up. I think I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you, hearing your story. No had the easiest the upbringings, I would suggest. You downplayed it. No had the worst either. No had the worst. It's fairly commonplace in the old.
I think I was lucky. I had a wee hard working mammy, to be honest, who knocked her pan in for years and years and years, so I could go to uni and I could go for my beers and
What's her
done a
name?
cracking job. Wee Susie.
Susie, well done, Susie. I don't know if she'll be an avid podcast listener at the ripe old age of 70, but
I'm sure.
Good. Well done, mate, and congrats on just the success of your business. We're absolutely excited about hopefully doing a lot of work with you over the next couple of years. Where can people find you if they've had a listen today and thought, right, I want to check him out?
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you search Jamie Steele, you'll find me on LinkedIn, or just a Google search for Squinty Pixels. We'll take you straight to our site. So we're fairly visible. You can't miss us.
Nice one. Well, thank you to anybody who's made it this long to the end of the podcast. And if you're listening and you've still not subscribed, followed our social pages, get it sorted. A large proportion of people that listen are still not subscribed, so that helps us more than you'd know. So get in and give us a wee follow, a like, and we'll have another episode out in another couple of weeks.